Okay, this video is putting square tang tools into wood handles. A lot of our tools nowadays, particularly skew chisels or scrapers, or like my big ugly tool, they'll have a square tang on them rather than the old forged tools which had kind of a tapered tang on them. And yes, you can put a square peg into a round hole. It works. You can take and drill a round hole in a piece of wood, pound this in and epoxy it in, or you can do like I do and you make a sandwich type handle. Sandwich type handle looks like this. So basically the middle, your peanut butter and jelly, your ham and cheese, or whatever your preferences are, this piece is the exact same thickness as the tang on your handle, and then you put two pieces of bread around it, glue it all up, turn it down, put your ferrule on it, and then seat your tool in there. So this is going to be how you make that one. So this basically is putting a square peg in a round hole. It does work. It's not as secure as I like. So this is the middle piece of my sandwich. It is the exact same thickness as my tool. Now there are two ways where you can size this piece to the exact same thickness, or maybe just a tiny hair wider or thicker than your tool. Probably the safest way for just about everybody out there is to do it on your planer. I do cut it to width first. This can be done on a table saw. If you do it on a table saw, this is master level skills only. Anything that gets stuck between your saw blade and your fence, which is how you would have to do this one, has high potential for kickback. I have a nice big scar on my arm from one little piece that kicked back on me once. I'm not going to do that again, and please don't do that unless you really know what you're doing. And again, the planer is probably the safer method. So this is the middle piece of my sandwich. It is the exact same thickness as my scraper. Layout lines, this is a little over 2 inches deep, so it will accommodate the full tang up till it flares, something like that. The way I lay out these lines, if you have one of these scribing tools like this, those are really handy. If you don't have the scribing tool, just about everybody has one of these tri-squares that's adjustable. Lay out your lines on the side, get it close. And when I do this layout, I'll lay out the lines on both sides. The idea with this is that when you start your cutting, when you flip it over, basically you're going to keep your cut centered in the board. I'm going to start my cuts very close to center, work my way out towards the edges till I get almost to the lines, check for my fit, and then cut some more if I need to. Okay, flame on. Okay, these I usually just break out sometimes. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, I got a little tiny bit of wiggle room in there. That'll be just fine because when I glue the pieces together, there will be some squeeze out, and that's going to fit real nice and tight. So my sandwich is basically ready. One piece of bread, the middle, Another piece of bread is ready for glue up. And yes, I know some of you are looking at this going, that's plywood, but if you look at it, that's like a 13 ply plywood, and that'll take any kind of abuse I can heap on it. Before I put this on the lathe, I do like to even this up perfectly, because when you glue it together, there's always little bits of wobble or variance in here. The idea for having it perfectly flat is it makes your stem center seat a lot better. One quick trip to the chop saw, take off maybe a 1/16 of an inch here. So in order to mount this on the lathe and get this centered, since you don't have a solid piece here in the middle and you can't put a center hole there, I'll take a shim like that, scribe a line, flip it, scribe a line, so after you've scribed your lines, you have a box here. And then all you have to do is line your center point up on the tailstock in the middle of the box. So this is what I mean by a stem center. So it's round here, and this point is spring-loaded, as opposed to your spur drive, which has 4 points. This just doesn't seat the handle part as well. So I've got the stem center pretty well lined up. Equal distance between all the pencil points here, tighten it up. This is the butt end. I prefer, when I'm doing spindles, to have it seated in a chuck rather than a spur drive or stub center. Mostly it just gives it a way better grip. So first step will be to turn it to a cylinder. This is kind of spindle turning 101. Next step will be fit a ferrule on the end, basically so it doesn't split after you pound the tool in and start using it. One of my pet peeves when they're teaching people how to use this tool is they'll tell you to drop the handle low, lower it until it starts to cut, and then start your cutting moving back and forth. The thing I don't like about that is it kind of turns it into a scraper, and they always talk about cutting with the grain, which means you're going to be sharpening like a pencil. So start, nibble this way, come back and come back and come back and come back. Rather than doing this, I always go at an angle. We'll stop right there. So in order to fit the ferrule, first thing I do is I'll make a pencil line on it, and it is perfectly fine to leave a little bit extra hanging out the end. So size the calipers for my ferrule. I'll make a little bitty notch on this end just to get it down to proper size. That's close enough. My preferred fit on these is to have it fit pretty snug because the wood will compress, and beyond this it's pretty much standard spindle turning. I do, in order to get a perfectly flat surface on this, take a piece of 80 grit, put it on a long piece of plywood and use that to flatten it out. Not bad for a bowl turner. I will check the fit on my ferrule before I pull it off of here. I do have to loosen this up, but it's not too hard to get it back into place again. I gotta take that down some more. That works. With sanding, I always turn the speed way down. That way the abrasives have better traction and they cut better, but piece of plywood, and take it on down till you're happy with it. Go through the progressions. I usually don't go very fine. The 80 grit gouge finish for somebody who's not a master skew worker, which I definitely am not. This gets it flat, takes out all the little bumps and humps, and especially if you've got figure wood, which is going to tear. I generally don't put any finish on them other than maybe the walnut oil or a coat or two of the wipe-on polys. I don't get fancy with mine. I just want a tool that works. And that's basically how you make a sandwich type handle for your square tang tools. So, fast forward, I have a finished turned handle here. I've taken my ferrule, this piece of brass pipe, so got the threads on that one. The hole for the tang, this is one of my big ugly tools. In order to seat the handle, stick it in the hole, tap it lightly first a few times, and basically we're going to pound it in by hitting the handle on this bench top or on this work table. And if you notice, I'm hitting directly over one of the table legs. That is so all the force goes back up into the handle. Your first couple taps before this thing is seated, hold on to this and the handle at the same time, because if you take it up and give a big swing without it being down in little ways, it'll go up in the air like this. And now that's in, just that's seated all the way in up to where this flares out a little bit, and that will not come loose.